Hey, it's your friendly neighborhood potato witch. Welcome to the show. Hidden object games. We all know them. Well, okay, I guess I can't say we all love them because some games just don't click with some people, and that's okay. Me, though, I used to generally dismiss them as pointless games. You know, games that don't really do anything but waste your time while you're waiting for literally anything entertaining to happen in your life. Water boiling, better games downloading, I don't know, whatever. But to be fair, I hadn't really played many of them while I dismissed them so easily. I didn't really know much about them. So I decided one day to give one a try, see how I felt about it. Then I played a dozen of them. Here's what I learned about the genre. First thing I noticed is the art style that seems pretty common to these games. That is to say, really gorgeous pre-rendered backgrounds, freaking works of art, combined with holy crap that's so ugly CG character models that are pretending to be real people. Seriously, these two do not go together, and yet in every game, they're put together. Why? Just why? This stuff looks like it came from 2009, not the past 3 years. I don't know why, but this style is what pretty much every hidden object game dev decides to go with. Really gorgeous in the background, and then characters that will haunt my nightmares. It's a weird choice. Speaking of haunting my nightmares, can I just take a moment here to revel in the occasionally atrocious voice acting? Because
I had a bad dream about a very evil place, and now my mommy is lost.
yeah. Now, sometimes it's not too bad. I mean, not great, but also not too bad.
You silenced it before I could drain my puppets and fully revive. My congratulations. I'm helpless.
You can tell the VAs put some effort in and tried to actually, inflect and show emotion in their performances. But others...
No, you have no idea who he is. What he is. He must be stopped. Once and for all.
They're just reading lines off a page and it really shows. Like, dude, I get it. I enjoy earning a paycheck too, but have some pride in your work, my man. This is your legacy you're leaving here. Do you really want people to remember you as the guy who did this performance?
We really need your help.
Moving on. Next thing I noticed is that for a game where the main purpose is ostensibly finding a bunch of objects from within a jumble of other objects, most hidden object games are hybrid point-and-click adventure games with storylines and stuff. Not necessarily good storylines, but storylines all the same. I just came here to click on some less than obvious items in a pile. Why are you making me solve puzzles to get a key that opens a door so I can find a rocking horse and a doll with traumatic head wound? What the hell even is this? So yeah, the games usually have stories. I did come across one exception to this in the form of Interpol: The Trail of Dr. Chaos. This game is pretty much about being an Interpol agent and tracking down Dr. Chaos and his minions all over the world, a la Carmen Sandiego. But when you get right down to it, all you do in every city, every landmark, is find stuff in a hidden picture puzzle, then move on to the next place and find stuff in a hidden picture puzzle, and so on. No rearrange this picture to unlock an item stuff, just straight up hidden object games. Honestly, it was kinda nice because that's what I went searching for in the first place. A nice, relaxing, strain your eyes until they bleed hidden object game. But most games aren't like this. Most games have stories that they use to keep you playing, like having to escape a town filled with vampire thralls, or finding a missing woman inside a carnival's mirror world. You know, your standard sort of story. There's something narrative done to drive you forward, to take you to various locations and give you context for the puzzles you're expected to solve. And since most games are like this, I don't really have a problem with it. But when I first went looking for hidden object games, it wasn't what I was expecting or what I was really looking for. Plus, yeah, it sometimes comes with a heaping helping of moon logic in its puzzles. And I'm not just talking about why someone would create a sliding picture puzzle to hide away a torn fragment of a painting or something like that. But, okay, let's say there's a small box. In my inventory, I have a knife, a hammer, and a crowbar. I could use the crowbar to pry open the box. I could use a hammer to smash it, but neither of these things work, cause gotta pry that open with a knife instead, cause sure, not like I have anything else that would do the job just as easily, or better. And sometimes it's not always clear why something you think makes sense actually doesn't make sense by the game's logic, leading to times where you think the solution is obvious, only it's not, and then you try every item in your inventory only to no avail, only to then discover that you have to backtrack to a random location 3 screens over because you triggered something that makes a new hidden object puzzle pop up to give you the item you actually need. Now yeah, Most games give you access to a map that shows locations where there's something new to do, but come on! If you can't lead me to the next piece of a puzzle organically, then there's something better you can be doing here. Without looking at a map to tell me where to go and what to do, sometimes there is no other clue that there's something new to check out. No signal that something was uncovered, no dialogue that says, I just heard a strange noise from the warehouse district, or something like that. Literally nothing, except for checking my map in the hope that it'll tell me what to do next, or use a hint. And yeah, I could always just not do that, sure. But it's still not like there's any clear sign of what needs to be done when you need an item you didn't know you needed before, because the chance to get it only just came up, and then I'd be backtracking to every screen anyway in the hope of seeing something different that might lead me in the right direction. It's a little bit ridiculous. But back to what I was saying about most of the games having stories. They do, and more often than not, they feel incomplete, I guess? Not so much half-finished with dangling plot threads, but more like I came into the story somewhere in the middle and I missed some clue along the way about what's happening. It's usually nothing big, usually just a couple of small things that make me go, wait, what? And make me wonder if the game I'm playing is actually the second in a series or something. I always check, and it pretty much never is. Best example I can remember off the top of my head is in Dracula's Legacy, where near the end one of the characters calls you by a name that isn't yours. And there's some slight implication that maybe this person he thinks you are is somebody who knew in the past, or you're the reincarnation of, or something like that. But it doesn't get followed up on. Like, ever. I don't know, maybe the game devs hoped some titles would get popular enough that they could throw in some sequel or prequel bait and people would be interested enough to buy more games in the series, but if that's the case, said sequel prequels rarely, if ever, actually appear. And hey, I get wanting to make stories look like they're intricate and well-planned and all that stuff, but that's not the way to do it. It actually looks pretty clumsy. Not like you have so many ideas and you want to go far with them, but like you have so many ideas and want to work them all in but can't figure out how to do so in a way that actually makes sense. Though I will admit that some games do go the extra step to give you more content and a more complete story. A lot of the games I played by developer Artifex Mundi feature bonus chapters after you complete the main game, giving you some closure on issues that might have otherwise just been left hanging. They're usually quick little things that don't take much time or effort, and you typically get an achievement or trophy for completing them, but they're a really nice touch, and I like that they went that extra mile. It gives people a reason to keep playing, even if it's just for another half an hour after they finish with the main game. They're pretty cool about that stuff, and if you're into hidden object games, they seem to be one of the better developers from my experience. Finally, something I want to talk about that might just be me being a little nitpicky jerk, but yeah, some of the English in these games is not the best. Usually it's fine, but there are moments every now and again that really hammer home that either English wasn't the first language of the devs, or else the ball got dropped a little while quality checking. Sure, most of it is little typos here and there, nothing too terrible, but there are two places where language becomes a real problem for players. Both of them are puzzles. First, and probably most ironically, are some of the listings in hidden object puzzles themselves. I don't know if it was through lack of consideration over homonyms or some deliberate attempt to get people to think of all the possibilities, but sometimes you're tasked with finding the vaguest things from the jumble. For instance, gotta look for a pipe, but are you talking the kind under the sink or the one you smoke? Horns? Yeah, that could be anything from the thing sticking out of a Viking helmet to a freaking trombone. Give me something better than a word that could mean multiple different things, for the love of little baby penguins, please. And yeah, I'd wave this off as something deliberate that's supposed to make people consider all possible meanings of the word as potential items they need to find, but I don't actually think that's the case. Why? Because some of the better hidden object games I played did not do this. They avoided nearly all of the things that could mean other things, and my time with them went a lot more smoothly than most of the games that left this ambiguous. I'd seen enough by that point that I was actively thankful for that consideration, and it made me think more favorably of those games and less of the ones that didn't care whether they were messing me around. Anyway, second area of language griping is the instructions for some of the puzzles. As in, how freaking obtuse they can be. And I have two examples of this that spring pretty much instantly to mind, even as I'm writing the script, and as it's been days and weeks since I played the games these puzzles were in, that probably says something. Okay, look here. This puzzle is solved by spinning some discs and making sure that all the gems at the corners match the color of the disc's background. You can move the corner gems around by turning the discs and sort of shifting the disc that the gem is on. You've got to get them all in the right places. The problem? Nowhere, ever, do the instructions tell you that white gems don't count. I mean, there are white gems, and there are discs with white backgrounds, so logically they should count. But if you try to do it that way, the puzzle is literally impossible. It can't be done. And nowhere is this explained. Nowhere is there even a hint that the game's designers didn't consider white as a color worth considering here. And yeah, that's pretty freaking important to know right now. My boyfriend's life is on the line. He's been kidnapped by vampire twins or whatever the hell was going on at this point in the story. I need to find him. Okay, that one's not due to bad translation or bad use of English so much as just not conveying vital information. But how about something that does involve bad English? Well, take a look at this puzzle. Each numbers shifts the corresponding letter. What does that even mean? I mean, besides not being grammatically correct, it's such a freaking vague hint that it took me a while to figure out what it was getting at. For instance, if I combine the letter G with the number 6, then the final letter that will be printed on the typewriter will be M, the letter that's 6 places further ahead in the alphabet than G. You sort of get a hint of that by the way C and 4 combine to make G, and you can't change those two specifically, but my problem is with the actual written clue in the game. It's vague, and honestly, it confused me more than it helped me. I could have figured out what it wanted more easily by just experimenting a little than by trying to figure out what the heck that even meant. So yeah, sometimes it feels like some of the puzzles and clues were written by people not who had a tenuous grasp on English, but more by people who weren't sure how to use language properly to convey information that was in their minds. And I'm sure that the people who came up with both of those puzzles sat back and thought to themselves, yeah, this definitely makes perfect sense. After all, I understand it, without actually considering that most of the people who would eventually play the game are, them. Or psychic. Wouldn't it be cool if we were? So what did I really learn on this journey through hidden object games? Well, I learned their strengths and flaws pretty damn well, or at least I like to think so. They have both, like any game genre will. And those strengths and flaws aren't just limited to a single game, they seem to be pretty much the same across the board. Or at least they were with the games that I played. I don't know, maybe I got super unlucky and chose the worst offerings out there to represent the genre, but realistically, the games I ended up playing were probably pretty representative for the genre as a whole. The things I disliked about one were usually the same things I disliked about the others, and vice versa. I also learned that I don't actually dislike them. I mean, they're still not my preferred type of game, all things considered, but after spending a bunch of time playing them, I started to see them as something more than pointless, more than just glorified puzzle books for bored people. The fact that they were melded with point-and-click adventure games helped a lot with that, since again, even though those games also aren't my preferred genre, I know plenty of people who enjoy playing them. They had stories, they had motivation for a player to keep going, keep progressing, with mysteries to solve rather than just puzzles to solve, if you catch my meaning. They turned out to be more complex than I expected, and like any genre of game, they also turned out to have a wide variety of quality, ranging from good to less good. Though pretty much every single one of them has terrifying CGI. Okay, good night, enjoy your dreams with this stuck in your head.